In this video, we will learn the relationship between squares and square roots. When a number is being squared, that means that you are multiplying the number by itself. For example, 3 squared equals 3 times 3, which equals 9. Now, just like other mathematical operations, there is an inverse operation for squaring a number, and that is to take the square root. Recall that when you take the square root of a number, we are asking ourselves what number squared, or what number times itself, equals the number under the square root sign. So what number squared equals 9? 3 squared equals 9, so the square root of 9 is 3. Now let's look at how the relationship between squares and square roots works when simplifying expressions. Let's say we are asked to simplify the square root of 4 squared. We would start by squaring 4 first, which would give us 16, because 4 times 4 is 16. Then we would take the square root of 16. To find the square root of 16, we ask ourselves, what number squared equals 16? Well, we just squared 4 to get 16, so the answer is 4. Now, since squaring and taking the square root of a number are inverse operations, they cancel each other out. That is why when we began with 4, squared it, and then took the square root, we ended up with 4 again. Now that we've gone through the previous steps to get our answer, we understand the relationship between squares and square roots. When we evaluate expressions like this with squares and square roots together, we can see that they cancel each other out in the first step. Let's look at some more examples. Simplify the square root of 36 squared. To simplify this expression, we will start by taking the square root of 36, which is 6. Then we square 6, which would give us 36. However, now that we understand the relationship between squares and square roots, we can see that the operations will cancel each other out in the first step. So the square root of 36 squared is 36. Let's try another one. Simplify the square root of 8 squared. Notice that 8 is being squared, and then we are taking the square root of that answer. Since we know that squares and square roots are inverse operations and cancel each other out, then we know that our answer will be 8. But let's go ahead and work through each step. First, we will square 8 and get 64. Now, we take the square root of 64 and get 8. Now let's try one more. Simplify the square root of 82.1 squared. At first glance, this may look a bit more complicated than the ones we've done so far. But since we are taking the square root of 82.1 and then squaring it, those two operations will cancel each other out, and our answer will be 82.1.